Hi! Sorry for the wait, everyone that was waiting. But yeah, welcome to September's live show. If you don't know and you're randomly just here, we are going to be talking about Dune by Frank Herbert. And yeah, okay. So we can do introductions first. My name's Melody. This is Strawberry Lemon Books. Hopefully you know me. And yeah, to stuff.
Hi, that's Jessa.
Hey, I'm Jessa from the channel Gabbing with Jessa. We've been here for a while, so we'll just throw it on this way. I can never remember which way my camera goes.
Hey, I'm Max from Max Reads. Hopefully you know all of us already.
It's only been a year. Woo! Tomorrow's
Oh my gosh.
It's our birthday.
Yes, feel free to say hi in the chat. And yeah. And just for really quick, our next month's book is going to be An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. But back to Dune. So, non-spoilery thoughts and ratings. What did everybody rate this book?
We can go counterclockwise if you want.
This is clockwise.
You go that way. That way.
Max, you should start.
I feel like I have really mixed emotions having reread this, because in my head I had it on such a pedestal as being such an amazing piece of work that I read when I was like a teenager, and I was like, oh my god, like this is the landmark by which all sci-fi is measured. And now like 13 years down the line, I'm like, oh, it went from a 5-star, like a solid 5-star when I was like 14 years old, and now it's probably like a 3. Like at most it's a 3.
I would also agree. This was my first time reading it. I gave it 3 stars as well. While I very much did enjoy it and can see a lot of inspirations for not just science fiction books, but movies as well. I think that if I had read this earlier and wasn't more aware of some of the more issues, that it definitely hasn't aged. And I do like to sometimes give books the benefit of the doubt, considering this came out in the 60s and how things were different now, or were different then compared to now. I mean, what's acceptable and not acceptable should always still have been a thing even back then, but you look at it at a different light now compared to when it was written. And like I said, I do like to give it the benefit of the doubt, but some of the things you just can't really take away. So I also gave it a 3-star. While I enjoyed it, there were still some issues with it.
Just a few.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm next. This was a reread for me, and the first time I read it, I gave it 3 stars. And that was when I first started actually critically rating things. So now, having been doing this for a while now, I'm giving it a significantly different rating, and I see what Frank Herbert was trying to do, and I appreciate what he was trying to do and what the rest of the series might potentially do. But I think that because of the certain literary devices that were used, it just didn't sit well with me. And I think that just because something was the first to do something does not necessarily mean that it should remain the pillar or that it was necessarily done well. So I'm giving it a 1.
Drop that bomb.
Sorry.
When you post your review, people are going to come for you.
Oh, I know. I know they are.
Okay. Yeah, I don't like giving low ratings because I'm like, people are going to hate me. But I didn't particularly enjoy the book. It might have been my own fault for leaving it to the last minute to read it. But I am going to give it 2 stars at the moment. And I was just expecting more worms. And there weren't enough worms.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I
wanted
didn't
so
like
much more.
love any of the characters, which is what like bumps a thing for me. And
Mm, mm,
yeah. So
Hi, River.
Hello!
and I know Leanne was also here.
Yay!
Can't wait for the
Discussion.
discussion.
Oh, it's getting started. Well, actually, can we preface this discussion because it sounds like none of us rated it 5 stars, and I think that because this book is like the pinnacle of science fiction and that it has a humongous fan base, I think it's important to preface by saying like just because someone doesn't enjoy a certain media to the same extent as everyone else doesn't necessarily denote that it's good or bad. It's just a differentiating opinion. So it's not a personal attack or like a personal decision against one person. It's just a very general discussion of differences.
Yeah.
If you enjoy aspects of Dune and you really love it as a book, we are not saying that makes you a bad person.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mhm.
I see why people enjoyed it, and I'm so happy that other people enjoy it. And that's generally a good thing. Like there should always be people that enjoy everything. Like everything has to have pros and cons.
And it just hits some people differently too. So it may not have hit well for us, but if it hits better for somebody else who maybe this is how they got into reading, or if it's just something they really enjoy and now inspires them somehow, that's amazing. So I would never fault anyone for that. So it's definitely like a high rate. I just looked at the rating on Goodreads and it has like a 4.25, which is like incredible to get like that high, so close to 5 stars. So it clearly has a really good fan base. And our few reviews aren't going to knock it down that bad. So
we'll be fine.
Yeah.
My one star did like a negative point.
And just because like I personally didn't love the book, I'm still excited to hopefully go and see the movie too. So.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
So excited for worms.
The thing is,
I
like,
know.
with the movie and the adaptation, like the story has so much potential that if you fix the problematic stuff, it could be amazing.
Yes.
Definitely.
I think it could. I think it could. And I also want to preface by saying the things that I personally found bothersome, there are lots of other reviewers out there of various backgrounds who didn't find it bothersome. So it's like it's just going to fluctuate, and they're all opinions are valid.
we are speaking for ourselves and not other people.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Are we spoiler territory, or are we non-spoilers still?
We're non-spoilers still.
Okay. Speaking
all we did was disclaimer.
All we did was rating and disclaimer.
We're just so excited to jump into it. Speaking of like characters that you said you didn't love any characters, did anybody have anyone that they genuinely really did like? Or was did this just fall flat?
Yeah, I like the worm.
I had one person that I was gunning for.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Is it Duncan Idaho?
It wasn't Duncan Idaho.
Oh, who was it?
It was Kynes. I really liked Kynes.
Okay.
Fair.
And then, yeah, I feel like that for me was the character that had like the most interesting take on everything. But
I liked Lady Jessica. I thought she was fun. I just like kind of like she seemed like, you know, kind of like a badass woman, and I love that. So especially in this book where we're kind of like with Paul, I keep wanting to call them all by the actor names because there were so many characters the whole time. I'm like, okay, Jason Momoa did this and Oscar Isaac did that. So
did you have like the
which I don't like to
movie?
do. Yeah, I don't like to put like movie or TV show actors like in the place, but there were so many characters, and some of them, like Timothée Chalamet, had a normal name, Paul. Okay, cool. But then like there were some weird ones that I couldn't remember, so I'm like, okay, Duke is Oscar Isaac. I think Idaho is who Jason Momoa is going to be. The Baron is like Stellan Skarsgård, so I'm just picturing them in my head the whole time.
Yep.
I feel like if I had to pick a human that I like that wasn't a worm, I would pick, I think her name's Alia.
Oh.
The daughter?
Oh, yeah, Paul's sister. She's so scary in the original movie. Like she is like horrifying.
Really?
Speaking of children who age unnaturally fast and talk a lot for being very small. Side note, my partner was rewatching Twilight this week, and they also have
Oh
a
my
small
God.
child that like ages way too fast, and I'm like, huh, Dune really did influence a lot of things.
Stephanie Meyer with Renesmee.
Interesting.
Who knew Stephanie Meyer was a Dune fan?
She just tweets about Dune. Oh my gosh, did you see the movie? We're all like, we knew it. We knew she was a fan.
Was there anything in anyone's eyes that like was a redeemable quality that the book had?
There was one chapter that I did enjoy. And it's a bit spoilery, so I'm not going to say what chapter it was, but it has to do with Kynes. And it was a chapter where we learned more about Dune and what happens inside Dune from his memory. And to me, that was like, oh God, yes, information, exploration. So I wanted more of that, but that was my favorite moment.
Yeah. I feel like it was a solid attempt at an ecological functioning world build, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just the people fucked it all up.
Would you say that this is a very character-driven book?
I would say yes, but like the reason this falls so flat is like the thing is, if it was a book that was driven by world build and plot and like I don't know, this massive universal stage space opera type thing, and then the characters fell flat, I don't think I would care as much. But because this book is all about the people in this one tiny little place, and all the people are like shit, like, then my brain is like angry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
You know
it could have done good.
I think I have an example, and you guys tell me if you agree or disagree, but Leviathan Wakes, I feel like had interesting world build and this whole plot that existed, and our characters, although they were catalysts for things, were not the center point of everything. They were trying to deal with things as they were being brought to them. Whereas in Dune, everything was writing on the decisions of these characters. So it's kind of just like, yeah.
It makes them feel like super overpowered in the grand scheme of things and not actually like believable people.
Yeah.
Paul is OP.
Paul is banned from the meta game. He's too powerful.
For no reason. But we'll get to that.
Okay.
Oh, Leanna's character driven. Okay. Would you guys say that you're character driven readers or plot driven readers? Because I'm definitely a plot driven reader.
Me too. Yeah, I'm plot and world build. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think I am too.
Although I like learning more about characters and things like that, if it's all just like, this is every single personality trait of every character, and then we just keep going through that, I'm like, that's great, but let me determine that for myself. I want to see this story move along. So
Yeah.
So if someone likes that, then they might enjoy Dune, because we are in the minds of almost every single character all the time. We know what they're thinking about each other all the time. So if you enjoy getting those, instead of like waiting to get clues, you enjoy getting in the moment, play by play of what characters are thinking, then you might like this.
Yeah. I feel like it was really, I don't think I've ever read another book that had like, you can be seeing into other characters' minds on the same page, like what they were thinking. I was like, that's really interesting.
Roro is a character-driven reader too.
One thing that's really funny about the mental point of views is, I don't know, have any of you seen the original film?
Long time ago.
So in the film, they do that. So they have like two characters in a room, and a character will say something,
Right.
and then like there'll be like this echoey voice that is their thoughts, and then it'll cut to the other character who'll say something, and then it'll have like their echoey voice. But
I'm
like the
kinda
whole way
hoping they
through the
don't do
movie,
that.
it does that.
I'm
Yeah,
kind of
God,
hoping
please,
they don't do that in the new one. Just let us figure it out as we're going.
Just leave David Lynch behind. We love him, but he's done now.
I think this movie, from what I've heard, is technically, you know how it's divided into like 3 books? I think each movie is a different book. So we're not going to get this full story. It's going to be a trilogy. And
Yeah.
that the first movie ends after book 1, I'm pretty sure is how it's going.
Interesting.
Interesting.
That's a way.
I
Okay.
think it might be. Like, it's a really
So
good
funny.
film, but it's like it's good and it's trash at the same time. I think that the director said that there's 2 movies for book 1,
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
so I
So they're
don't know. I
pulling-
don't know where the line is.
They're pulling a Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2. That's what they're
Mhm.
doing.
The Twilight references.
Someone's
today.
got Twilight on the brain tonight.
Oh God, help me. I was reading this and it was on the TV. It was like, but any other positives or like non-spoilery things we want to talk about?
It was the clip with Baron. I listened to the audiobook, and Baron's voice in the audiobook was like the deepest voice ever.
Okay, so I still, in my head, could not, like, I know we're talking about like fan casting and how we imagine people in their head. I swear that the Baron looked like Jabba the Hutt in my head. That's all I couldn't get it out. Oh yeah. Except Jabba the Hutt, like, you know how Sphinx cats have no hair?
Mhm.
So kind of
Yeah.
like that, like human colored Jabba the Hutt. Like,
I kept forgetting like bits of description about everybody, and then it would bring up the description again. I was like, what? Like how it describes like all the Harkonnens, like every single one
mhm.
has like bright orange ginger hair.
Mhm.
And like my brain was like, nah.
Yep, and that will go into points that I have to make later. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Oh, our guest is here.
Yay!
Tina here.
Hello.
Hi!
Hey,
Yeah.
welcome.
I can't hear anybody, so just give me a second.
Oh no, take your time. Take your time.
Take your time.
We're just going over non-spoilery opinions and things.
She can't hear you.
He's like, nope, can't
Oh
hear
no,
you.
that's right. She can't hear us. Sorry.
Oh,
Oops.
okay.
Pretend to talk. Be like,
I'll put it in private chat. Okay.
We love technology.
Yay, technology.
Oh no. Do.
By the way, if anyone's watching and they're not subbed to Tina, please go sub to Tina because she's awesome.
Yeah. Her info is linked in the comments down below.
Sweet.
Check it out.
Yay.
Mhm.
So side note, as we wait, I don't know if you guys know I love annotating. I gave up annotating halfway through. Like, I stopped,
God.
I stopped right here. Like, I give up.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh, she probably
Okay.
rejoined.
Yeah.
Cool. So yes. Other non-spoilery thoughts.
What were they called? The still suits?
Still suits.
Were
the stinky poo suits.
I'm still don't understand where the poop goes because you can't fully like unless because they kept the suits on the whole time, right? They've
The
never took them
whole
off.
time. The
Yeah.
whole time.
So I understand taking urine and filtering it without maybe that taking up any solid physical space.
Mhm.
But what about
Mhm.
poo?
Maybe it just like the waste goes into a little pocket, and like once a
Yeah.
month, you get like this tiny little block that you throw away.
I thought they would like maybe after the day is over, when they go to sleep, they like dump it somewhere in the desert.
Maybe the entire planet of Arrakis is like one giant litter box.
Hi.
Yay,
Hey. Can you
I don't
hear
know
us
what
all
was
okay?
happening. I am so sorry.
No,
Fine.
don't worry about it. We just went through non-spoilers so far. But everyone,
perfect.
welcome our guest. Our guest, Tina.
Hi.
You want to introduce yourself?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm a bit frazzled today. So I did a Google search being like, what time with the time change? And I was an hour off. So anyway.
It's okay. We
Tina
don't like time zones here.
I'm Tina from Sound and Fury Book Reviews. I mainly review science fiction. I do some other stuff too, like historical fiction and gothic horror and stuff like that too. So that's mainly my channel. I also have Instagram as well. So.
Links down below. Go
Yeah.
subscribe, please.
Thank you.
So,
And,
Tina, I was gonna ask Tina the same questions we've answered so far, which is like, did
Yeah.
you have a favorite character?
Oh, Keen's probably.
Yes. That was mine too. That was mine too.
Fanny, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what did you end up giving the book? Your star rating?
Oh, it was so complicated for me because I read the book the first time when I was 15, and it was like the first book that got me into science fiction. So I had a whole lot of like nostalgia for it. But I ended up giving it like a 3 after like a kind of a critical reread of it, like for like the 5th time. And so I was like, I think it'll always have like a kind of a nostalgia for me. So that really helps. So yeah.
Mhm.
So here we have 3 3s, a 2, and a 1 so far for ratings.
Yes, you gave it the 1.
Whoa.
Can you guess?
It's definitely.
Oh, so fun. Oh man. So, what other non-spoiler do we want to talk about? Like, how can we talk about plot or progression of the politics without getting spoilery? Is that possible?
I guess you could talk about just general themes that run through the book.
Mm.
We're all just like itching
Yeah.
to cross the line where we're allowed to start screaming.
Okay. Should we keep it non-spoilery for like 5 more minutes and then we'll go into spoilers?
Okay, I'm sure we can do this.
For
We can
you,
do
yes.
I'll
this.
keep track of time. Wait, if everybody has their physical copy, what cover do you have? This is mine.
Okay.
This one.
Oh, I have
Ooh, we got some classic
Look at mine being
covers.
spoiled and
Oh,
destroyed.
I love it.
Oh my god.
Wow. That is a well-loved book. I love that.
This wasn't even like my dad's original one. He wouldn't let me take this one. This one someone else gave to me. She wrote like something in it when I was like 20.
Aw.
Oh, that's nice.
Destroyed.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so themes: colonization.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Themes.
Exploitation at the cost of the native people.
Yep. Galactic Empire. Oh God, my brain's blanking. What are some themes?
That's what like.
I'm about to Google list of themes and let's just go by.
It's a lot of like self I'm trying to think of it. Not like self-determination, but like kind of like proving oneself. Like it seems like everybody has to like prove oneself to other people. Like I don't know if that's really a theme or just like a reoccurring thing, but
Yeah, kind of
usually,
like just like power in a way, like using that for like power, wanting to gain that in some way that you can. So
Chosen One.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's not a theme. Feminism.
Oh, Tina.
What's interesting though is like for the time, because I read a lot of classic sci-fi, like a lot of it, and it was actually, I'd say for that time, like the late 60s, it actually has more like feminist overtones because there were more like women that actually had conversations and it passes the Bechdel test, and there's more women that actually like can do things and take part in the plot, but at the same time it's definitely definitely dated.
So did this make you realize how terrible everything else is in comparison?
Yeah,
Like
it
this
was
is
so
a low
funny.
bar, and other stuff still doesn't hit it.
Oh my god, yeah, I'm reading one from the like 80s right now and it's even worse.
Oh no.
Awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, I read them for that because I think it's not like a hate read, it's more like a kind of an interesting like critical like reading of it. I'm just like, how bad can it get?
Oh no. But I think it's really important, like it's really clear. I think we said this already, the influences and the process of building this like expectation or of what the foundation for an intergalactic empire in the first place. Like we get these nuggets of other worlds. I love the idea of the prison planet. What was it called? Selunda something.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And learning about the Chom companies and their like the exploitation, right, across the universe. I don't know if it's one of those books that it could be like so far in the future that is history repeating itself with certain like societal systems,
Maybe.
or is it a parallel universe that could have been something? Could it be like a historically fiction in another universe where there's other people? I don't know, because there were so many things that seemed very dated, but then is it too far-fetched to assume that these things can be repetitive throughout history?
It's kind of like Star Wars in a way that they have this technology that seems very advanced, but then a lot of the stuff is very dated. Like almost feels like it's apocalypse and then rebuilt itself centuries later, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Spoilers.
Does it ever explicitly mention Earth by name?
No, I don't think so.
Was there not a single mention of it?
Mm-mm.
I wonder if it does at all in like the rest of the series.
It's a great question.
I don't know.
Have any of you guys read books too?
I've read book 2 a long time ago, but never further than that.
Okay.
I actually don't remember if I read book 2 because it would have been when I was like 16 or something, and that was relevant 20 years ago. So for me, so I could ask my dad, but I'll be like, hey, Dad.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the planet they were from was like, because I know they had rain and everything, but I don't think
Caladan, I think, was like an oceany planet.
Yeah,
like big oceans and stuff.
It seemed like they had a lot of greenery, much more so that they were used to, which goes into, we'll get into that in spoilers, why Jessica had certain opinions of things coming from another planet where resources were vastly different.
Yeah, how water's almost a theme too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
About it.
Would this be could this be essentially a cli-fi?
No, because it wasn't like, I don't know. Was Arrakis a world that was watery, was water rich, or was it always like this? I guess I don't know. I guess we don't know.
No, yet. I mean, we
think
get
that was a mystery.
Yeah.
I think you do find out much later in the series about like what Arrakis was like, but not for like 3 or 4 books. I am not willing to go that far.
I think that's the general theme, is like, again, prefacing before we get to the spoilers, is that I think what Dune was trying to do will become more apparent later on in books, and it could potentially answer a lot of the questions that we're going to pose in the spoiler section. But I also am not willing to read all those books to find out the answer.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember if he wrote it intending it to be a series or if he wrote the first one and then built on it. Like, I don't remember reading that, like that, whether that's a thing or not. Like, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Because that would be an interesting way, like, if he was doing that on purpose, like to have 5 or 6 books, then okay. But if it's only one and then he built off of that, I wonder how it would be if he would have been written it differently. I don't know.
Speaking of when he was going into publishing the book, does anybody know who published the book originally?
As in
Probably
publisher?
says thing.
It was the first people to ever publish the book. This was the first book they had ever published.
Whoa.
Oh.
And previous to this, the
Chilton?
only thing they published was car manuals.
Oh. What?
And this was their
Wow.
like very first foray into fiction.
Well, I guess they did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Making that
He
choice.
got rejected by like 10 other people as well. And then this like one car company was like, yeah, sure, we'll do it. Like, whatever.
Talk
That's
about getting the golden
crazy.
ticket.
Yeah, right.
That's so funny because there's so many. I wonder why, because a lot of I think at the time, like in the 60s, sci-fi was seen as such like a pulp kind of campy thing that it wasn't,
Yeah.
it probably was too serious. Because most of them, even ones by like Jack Vance and like Fletcher Pratt and all these like old classic ones were still campy despite being the same kind of quality in terms of like writing and stuff. Like they weren't trash books. They were just like seen as, kind of silly, the genre in general.
Mhm,
Which is
mhm.
interesting which is probably why this thing was so popular, is because it was so like different from like the
Mhm.
campy stuff, I guess.
Mhm, mhm.
I don't think I've read anything that came from before Dune that matches the scale of it.
Oh no,
I
yeah.
think that's like the first time this was done properly in sci-fi.
Right.
Mhm. Which is why it's the pinnacle.
I'm trying to think. I'm like looking at my stacks of them, and I'm like, I don't think I have any that are series other than ones that were like
Yeah.
spin-offs of the original. Like, but I've got this really cool Frank Herbert like short story collection.
Ooh.
It's really
Ah,
cool.
Oh.
That's
I
cool.
stole this from my
Oh!
Cool.
yeah, it's the Gone Dogs. It's like a virus that threatens dogs and stuff. It's an
Oh,
interesting
no.
story. Yeah, it's a short story. It's an interesting story. It's not too sad. But yeah, it's a cool book. Yeah, I'm not giving this back to my dad.
Cool.
So, I think Steph's ready for spoilers.
It's about to kick off.
Listen,
I was so worried I would not be able to get in and then miss that. I've been looking forward to this whole week. I had a really hard week.
We are gonna head into spoiler territory now. So if you have not read Dune and don't want to be spoiled, leave. Bye. Thanks for joining. Bye. And yeah, in case you want to join us next month, our next book is An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. And should be good for the spooky themes in October. But yeah, if not, we're starting spoilers. So if you're still here, that's not our fault.
You have been warned.
You've been warned.
Yeah.
Woo.
So who wants to start?
You guys go. I'll follow. Where do we start?
Oh gosh.
There was a lot that I was having been, because I'm such a huge fan of the old movie, the like 83 movie. Like there was a lot that I expected that was in that movie that never showed up in the book, and I was really surprised at how much they had taken from like the surrounding books and put into the first Dune movie. Like the fact that you never ever see a guild navigator, and that is like one of the hugest moments of the movie when the guild navigator like confronts the emperor, and it's like this weird freaking deformed human that's like cracked out on spice, and like his head is like 3 foot wide. But like I was waiting for that moment and it never came, and I feel like I must have just like put that into my memory of having read the book before. But there were quite a few things like that.
On that same note, there were certain things that I wanted more of, like for example, the whole Gum Jabbar scene in the beginning, or or what was it called, the Seeker Finder thing. Like there were certain technologies that I was really excited about, but that kind of happened, that were like just a momentary, okay, this happened, and then we're moving on, but we never get to unpack what that thing is or where it came from. And I was just like, oh, I want more. Like, give me more of that.
Yeah, it's such a character-focused book that the actual sci-fi elements of the book, you see them for like a second and then they're gone. And there is hardly anything. You could easily just set the same story in a desert and make it about like gold or oil or something.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. that
It's
they
a very reskinnable. Yeah.
Like, I wanted more about the Chone Corporation and how that works. How do you link up? Like, how does the Emperor have so much control over all of these different planets? Like, that's the kind of thing I found was interesting, but we didn't really go into that. It's like,
Right.
I guess I'd have to read more books to like, do I want to?
It never tells you either what CHOAM means.
Nope.
Like in the
No,
whole
it
book,
doesn't.
it never tells you what the acronym for, and then you look it up and it's like German or something. It's like a bunch of German words.
This
Is
is
it
my
awesome.
in the appendix?
this is my problem. We have so many. It's supposed to be a world that it's set so far in the future that there's this kind of like dissonance between what we currently understand about cultures and society, but it's making such specific like linguistic or cultural references that we're like, what's the gap? I don't know.
It's in the appendix, actually. I looked it up. It's, Combine, Honex, Ober, Advancer, Mercantiles.
Because I know what
Yeah,
that
obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a Universal Development Corporation controlled by the Emperor and the Great Houses with a guild and Bene Gesserit as silent partners. Like, that doesn't really explain a lot. It kind of explains a little.
Nah.
Maybe you'll find out in the other book.
I feel like the other books were written in like a J.K. Rowling backpedaling kind of way. Like people got really angry about all the gaps that he left, and he was like, "Oh shit, I gotta write some more books."
Like, what does Chone mean? I'll just pick a bunch of random words.
See, this is my mind keeps going to Leviathan Wakes because like that concept of there's these companies that are like that have umbrella companies that seem like they're trying to do other things, but really there's this behind the scenes kind of scheme, and there's nuggets that I think we usually get, but here I wanted more. Like, at least tell me what CHOAM stands for so I can make up this scenario in my head of, oh, that's interesting. I can't wait to get to book 2 and, like, find out about them. But
yeah, you kind of forget about it. Like, oh, yeah, I didn't really. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing.
There's a hell of a lot of stuff that it does rely on you being able to infer about people's positions in the power structure that it never explicitly actually will tell you.
Which seems very, which is the complete opposite from the story structure of constantly giving us what the characters are thinking.
Yeah.
So I just felt very confused as to what extent was I supposed to infer, and to what extent was I just supposed to be a sponge. Like, I don't know.
It was almost like he was playing with like the convention of writing at the time. It was like he was trying a new way of approaching it, and I'm not 100% sure it worked, because as much as we get it, like what everybody's thinking all the time, we don't actually get a lot of backstory about the people. Like the three men characters, I can't remember their names, but the parents in the household, like Halleck and Sophia and all of them, we don't really know anything about their pasts. Like, we only know about them forward.
There are some weird relationships between people as well, and like when you think about it, most people in this book never meet at all. One of the weirdest things for me was like when I think the rivalry between Fade and Paul could have been one that really worked, but like they didn't even know that the other person existed until literally the last 5 minutes of the book. Well, like,
And they kill one
the
of
whole
them.
duel between Paul and Fade could have been like the climax of something, but instead it's like he walks into the chamber and he sees this ginger guy and he's like, "Oi, like, you get it."
I remember you from my dream. Get over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Lord.
Okay, so question for you guys,
Okay.
because it seemed like Paul is technically supposed to be an anti-hero. He does not want to be the chosen one, but every decision he makes is exactly what his dreams kind of told him to do, or his visions. It's like, well, I had a vision about it. I guess I should go do that thing. Could he have at any time, do you think, said, fuck it, I'm just not going to do it?
I don't know. He's such a weird character, in my opinion, because he's supposed to be 15, but he's so like wise and like, put together. I'm like, at 15, I was an idiot. Like, if I'd had a weird dream about something, I'd be like, I'm not doing that. I don't even know what that means. I'm just gonna go, I don't know, like go play video games. I just don't. I don't know. I don't think it's such a weird question because I don't know how to answer it. Someone else try.
I wonder why he made the decision to make the main character a child if he wasn't going to make them act in a childlike way. Like, I don't understand at all how it's relevant.
Why can't he be 21?
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
I saw 15 and I was like, is this gonna be like a coming of age kind of thing? And then we like had a 3-year time jump and he was an adult already when he was 15 and I was like, okay.
And a dad.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. That's one thing I talk about in my review that I haven't posted yet, but I go on at length about how the structure of the Fremen society works. And like, we don't really learn, like, do they have education systems? If they do, why was this 15-year-old allowed to just drop out of school and like, have a baby? And like, they don't have birth control in the future. I was like so like annoyed by it. It's saying to me of like, a male writer at the time not thinking about what women actually think about and being like, oh yeah, she totally fine with this, just like 15-year-old girls have dreams and wishes too. They don't just want to like have babies for the chosen one. Like,
not according to the last line of that book.
Oh my gosh, the last line.
Christ. Oh my god.
I heard it in the audiobook and I was like, excuse me, what did you just say?
Might as well being a walking uterus. Just like,
it's got like so many things wrong with it. Like,
I feel like I just want to get Frank Herbert and be like, do you know any women? Like, have you spoken to one before?
It's just frustrating. He makes like Jessica a pretty strong character in that she has opinions. I mean, she doesn't really contribute too much to the plot, but she does stand up for herself. She has opinions. She has a cool power, all this stuff. But then she's like, I'm fine, just, sitting back, letting the men do all the work. It's like, why?
Alia, his sister, totally could have been like what Paul was supposed to be. But no, it has to be a male that can go into that.
I will say with Alia though, Alia is arguably the main character in the second book.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that. And I think the Grant, who's someone's son, Leto too or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
someone...
Leto too.
I thought he got killed. He didn't get killed. It was just like,
I think they have another son.
And they call him the same name. Oh my god.
Does Frank like have any children? Who does that? My son passed. I'm gonna name my next one the same thing.
Oh my god. Leto 2, Electric Boogaloo.
To each their own.
I guess. Yeah, sure. Do whatever you want.
Oh no. Like, I you know what? On that same topic, I was highly upset with Jessica and her. I found her very misogynistic because I understood that like she didn't want to go with the Bene Gesserit's original plan of having a girl to like continue this line. She wanted to sort of, hey, I know. I don't know what she's saying. She wanted to have a boy. Can you? No. Sorry. She wanted to have a boy to like continue for her goal of having like the cataract, whatever, right? Quasax, whatever.
Yeah.
But then, so she is putting Paul, because he's a male, on this pillar, right? But then while she's pregnant with Alia, she purposefully drinks a poison that she's not sure could kill her daughter, and is like, oh well, if she dies, it's fine because now I'm gonna become the grand like mother Bene Gesserit, whatever. Yeah, like because we got so much we got this perspective of her cherishing Paul and wanting to nurture Paul, but then as soon as she's pregnant with a girl, it's like I'm gonna make totally opposite decisions.
With Jessica being like, after Paul is born, she's obviously this like doting mother to a level where it's weird, but like before before she actually has Paul, is her move to have Paul a completely selfish move? That she wants to be the one that made the Kwisatz Haderach? Like,
I think
what
you're
is what motivates her in doing that in the first place?
She
Or is
wants
it
to-
because she wants to please the Duke?
It's because of the Duke. I think she wants to give him a male heir because, you know, women can't inherit apparently in the future. And I think that's it. And I'm like, that's in itself is so sexist.
Yeah,
Progeniture is
completely.
like terrible. That's what I think it was. She wanted to please him. Maybe it was a move to try to get him to marry her. I don't know.
So,
Because there's a
Well,
lot
but
of
then-
focus on that. Being like, I should have married you, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. I'm like, how is that better than just being together? It's so
and then
frustrating.
in the end of the book, the last line, she's like, "It's okay, Chani. We'll just be concubines." I'm just
And,
like,
you know, that also denigrates sex work by being like, if you're a sex worker, which is like concubine is basically, then you're somehow worse than being a wife. It's like, why is there like this hierarchy of like what women can be? It's like, no, there's no
Drives
level.
me-
If you're a wife, it's not the pinnacle of anything. It's just you're just married.
Yeah, and the wife that Paul's gonna marry or whatever, I was like, she was like, I am born to do this or whatever, and I was like, no, because she's supposed to be like a really like highly trained Bene Gesserit or whatever it is. So I was like, I bet you have so much power, but why?
Yeah, Irulan, yeah. Or
What about the
Irulan,
woman
obviously.
that's gonna marry Paul when he killed her husband?
Oh, Herar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, oh my god.
She was like, she was so ready instantly to like go to bed with him, have more kids with him.
well, by
Oh
the end of the
my
book,
gosh,
he's
I
like
even think
18
about
or
the
something,
age
right?
difference.
Yeah, he's 15 and
Yeah.
she has like 2 grown sons. I'm like, ew.
Oh my gosh. Okay, hi, Michael. can we wait, George Foreman? Oh, I have no idea. I don't know anything about that. Like Jessica, I have so many thoughts on Jessica. Okay, but like, what was I gonna say? The Baron being a pedophile was not necessary.
Yeah,
It was not
yeah.
at all.
The
But
Baron
why?
is such a poor representation. Like, oh, it's so common though in books of that time period to have like a villain who is either larger or obese, or a villain that is gay, and that's what like makes them more horrendous. And I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, this trope, I hate this trope, and it's a double trope, and I'm just like, come on,
Right.
it's so rude.
Yeah. I think that in itself, even if I had liked everything else, that in itself, I would not have been able to give this a 5-star because that's just like, and it wasn't like, I feel like going into classic books, I have a threshold or like a checklist. I'm like, all right, I know there's going to be problems. I have a certain amount of problems that I'm willing to accept because of the time period. But the moment it becomes a foundation of the story, and we can't go a single chapter without the Baron ending it on, oh yeah, by the way, bring a small child to my bedchamber. Like, oh,
Yeah.
do that? Why? Why?
The thing is, as well, it's like in the 60s, this was written in a time where there was just starting to be like non-censorship of stuff like sex in books, like
Right.
gay people could be in books. It was like the media was like, you can have a gay person in your book. And Frank Herbert was like, oh, cool, I'm going to make the Baron. And the media was like, oh, wait, no. Yeah,
Oh,
It's so frustrating. It's you look at movies from the time period too. It's the exact same thing. They're always
Right.
vilifying or doing body horror of people that are like people that are LGBTQ or people that are larger, and it's just like such a frustrating thing that's traveled even into today. Sometimes you
Yeah.
still see horror movies and stuff. It's just like, come on.
Yeah.
It does not help with making a society an equal place to have these villains that are lazy. It's a lazy trope too, to be like, yeah, like other than that, like what makes him so villainous? Like,
Right. Like it just doesn't make any sense of why, like, okay, so they're gay, and yeah, your point, like that automatically makes them villain. Like it doesn't, like it's not like they did anything wrong. Like it's just natural. Like why do we need this? Like
I'm looking at Michael's comment.
Yeah, me too.
What?
Was talking.
really?
Georgetta.
Imagine choosing Georgetta over Georgina, which is a real name.
What?
Or even
Wow.
like
I feel like
Georgia.
our household
Or
would be
Georgia,
so
yeah.
confusing.
Georgetta.
parent teacher night must have been so confusing.
Yeah, like you would be. Oh yeah, you have all 5 of them in one class. Which George are you calling?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I thought it was bad having both my kids have the same letter at the start of the names, but I have 5 kids with the same name.
Oh, it's funny. Oh. Okay, so who? My mind is everywhere. Someone give us something. to talk
Ben and
about.
Gesserit, let's talk about them.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about Ben and Gesserit.
Oh, the most
So-
manipulative people in the entire universe.
Bunch of strong
fact
women,
that,
they're
like,
so bad.
The prophecy never even was real at all, because the whole thing was planted by them at the very beginning, and from zero, it was all about subjugation.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is the point that Frank Herbert might have been trying to get to, and I kind of understand if the point of the story was supposed to be a criticism of like the evolution of humanity's beliefs and class systems and our political structures and all of those things. But again, I don't think we got enough information in book 1 to say, okay, this is not just a plot trope. This is actually a criticism.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is like this whole Dune universe is just Frank Herbert totally misunderstanding what satire means.
It's funny because he has, like, in this story, the short stories I was talking about, he has a couple like books that are really funny, and the short stories, some of them are really good and really deep and like interesting. So I'm just like, was Dune just like too much? Like, did he have to cut stuff out to make it smaller, and that's why it seems like it's missing some stuff? I wonder if this thing was actually like 1,000 pages at the first go, and the car manuals was like, you can't do this.
Yeah.
We're not publishing 1,000 pages.
We only got so much paper.
Exactly.
Oh no!
Oh, we lost
I know where
Melody.
she went.
We lost our host.
I didn't even know that was possible for then the whole thing to disappear.
no.
But we're still live, so I think she can come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I agree with you, Steph. I think that like this book isn't really sci-fi, or the one thing of sci-fi where it's like there's a lot of action and battles and stuff like that. Like they still have that, but I definitely think it was written more for a discussion, to have a discussion on certain topics rather than to just be like pew pew lasers. So, oh, her computer crashed. She'll be back.
Speaking of lasers, wait, can we talk for a second about the battle where the Baron said, haha, they weren't prepared for arrows or guns? Like, wait, there was a scene where I was cracking up because they had laser guns and they had the shields for the laser guns, but he's like, haha, they weren't prepared for actual guns because we're so far in the future that no one wears Kevlar anymore. So I was thinking about that, like, wait, would I come to a gunfight with arrows? Because that would be the unexpected thing to do.
That's actually pretty funny, actually, to think about. Like, yeah, like how far in the future? Like, if you were going up against someone that has a lightsaber, what happens if you whip them in the face with a rock? Like, they wouldn't expect it. Like, you're just like,
you weren't expecting that.
Exactly.
Oh, it's so funny.
That's interesting. I wish they had more battles. Like, I wish there was less Paul whining in the cave about like being 15, and like, more battles of like rocks being thrown at people.
More fights,
stuff like that.
More worms.
Yeah, and I wanted to see more of like Alia doing stuff. I mean, you said she does more in the second book, but I'm like, a 4-year-old that like kills a man and like insults him in the process is amazing. Why couldn't she have just, Paul just had like died by a sandworm and she just was born and took over the rest of the book.
Yep.
I feel like her big end moment was kind of anticlimactic, though. I feel like she deserved more at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Speaking of battle scenes, I personally, there was like quite a few moments where I feel like we didn't even see the battle.
Yeah.
Like it was more of after the battle, okay, we're all like on the sand, we're tired, like the battle happens, and now we're like dealing with the wounded, but I want to actually see the battle.
Mm-hmm. One of the coolest scenes in the book, I think, is when Jessica and Stilgar fight. because it's unexpected.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That's
oh,
cool.
Jessica's gonna have to be saved by Paul, but she actually saves like him, and I'm like, oh, that's a change. But like, well, I wish it had a bit more kind of, because that was an interesting fight. I thought I was actually like, oh yeah, I can't remember what happens. Did she kill him or what? I can't remember. So more of that, less caves.
So there's a good comment here. I can't pull it up because I'm not the host. It says, if the Baron was not included in Dune, do you think it could be called YA?
No, because someone gets pregnant at 15. Actually, I don't know. I don't read YA enough to know.
I think probably not, but because I don't think having a child main character automatically makes a book YA. And I think a lot of people think that it does. Like, if this book is about a teenager, it's a YA book. And it's like, that's not how it works. Yeah.
I think it's too complicated. Not complicated, like, I'm not saying YA books aren't complicated, but I think it's too political in a way, in a certain way to be YA. Like, because YA books can be political, but I think they do it in a more, not heavy-handed, but maybe a more simplistic way, depending on what kind of YA, if it's a younger YA or not. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you get YA books that are like economics and capitalist satire and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
You made it back, Mel.
I did. My laptop just died on me. Like, I don't know what happened.
Oh.
I think especially from what I understand about the future books, that it's more of like a generational story, and that this is really following all these adults. And yeah, I don't have words, but I agree with what was said. I don't think it's meant to be a YA story. Though
Paul doesn't act like a typical YA character either.
No.
There's no love triangle, really. I guess there is a love triangle. Wait, there is, kind of. At the end, how he marries Irulan.
Yeah. Irulan, the friggin' simp for Paul, who like spends her whole life writing 6 books about him. Like, oh, my lovely, wonderful husband.
I met him for 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll marry him. Why not?
And he never spoke to me again.
Yeah.
Speaking of people who are simping for Paul, this might have gone over my head, but I didn't understand why Chani was also having visions about Paul. Is it something to do with the spices?
I can't remember.
Because when she met him, she said something about like, oh, I've seen you in my dreams or something.
Maybe
so
as that chosen one?
But like, but we understand that Paul is getting visions because he is the Huazek cataract, whatever. Like,
he's that cataract.
Yeah, and then like we understand the Bene Gesserit having visions and understandings and all those things. I want to talk about that Huazek thing in a second because it doesn't make sense to me. But like, we understand where they're coming from because of their training and what they're going through. But it's not necessarily explained why Chani was having any kind of visions.
I think it's like to do with the fact that to become a reverend mother within the Bene Gesserit, you have to the thing that you take is a poison that is derived from spice. Like, and so the spice, I think, is in some way making the Fremen more receptible to stuff like prophetic dreams. Because it's doing to them 1% of what got done to Jessica.
Right, I forgot that she's on that path to be the reverend mother. Forgot about that.
I think Paul mentioned that like he felt that the Fremen had some like psychic abilities, but they weren't trained. Like if Paul's mother didn't train him on like everything he could do, he wouldn't be able to do everything. So I think if they were trained, they would have more abilities.
So isn't the Chom Company harvesting spice from Arrakis to then disseminate as part of their production throughout the rest of the universe or something?
The only reason they need spice is for space travel. That's all spice does. That's all they want it for.
So it's fuel?
No, when a guild engineer takes spice, it lets them fold space.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it does not make that clear in the book at all.
Yeah, I did not catch that.
My dad had explained to me when I was like a kid, because I was like, I don't understand what the spice is. And like, is it just drugs? My dad's like, no. I'm like, oh my god. I'll never forget that lecture.
It's like LSD, but as a side effect, you can teleport.
So my prediction of where the spice comes from is that it's worm poop. I don't know.
It's something to do with the worms, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm
Worms.
assuming it, like, you know, they process it through their bodies, kind of like that really expensive coffee that some mammal poops out.
Oh,
and
like
everyone's
civet coffee, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like really expensive for no reason. Same thing.
Speaking of where the story goes in the future, how many of you are actually going to continue, or can I tell you some bonkers stuff that happens?
Tell me,
in
I
the
wanna know.
series?
Yeah,
Tell
just
me. I have no intention.
So there's, you know, the things that Kynes refers to as little makers.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
once in the chapter, they're like baby sandworms, and they're like this,
Mm.
they're called sand trout or something, and they're like this big.
Mhm.
But Leto the second has this thing where they crawl over him and become like living armor on him, and then this other weird thing happens where they like become symbiotic with him, and he becomes a human sandworm hybrid. So like so he's like the top half of a person, and then around his waist are like the open jaws of a sandworm, like a full-size sandworm. But he becomes like some weird worm god thing. Like
I
that
wanna
lives
read this
for
now.
Oh, I gotta
800
read this.
years.
Why wasn't
It's
this
mad.
my first book?
crazy.
Right. Also, the main character of the entire Dune series is Duncan,
What?
because he
What?
dies and
Yeah.
they resurrect him, and he dies and they resurrect him and he dies. But like it happens like 6 or 8 times, and he serves every generation of Atreides in the same role.
What a boring, like, what a sad existence. You just keep
Right.
getting, like, you know, he never gets to lead. He's just the servant that just does all the stuff, and then he dies.
Yeah, they like resurrect him and then like dump all the old Duncan memories into the new body.
That's okay.
Is that
That's
the
Jason Momoa. He can stay. I'm okay with that. If we're gonna
Oh, yeah,
continue
yeah.
on in the Dune cinematic universe, that's okay. I'm good with that. That's Jason Momoa.
I'm still stuck on the worm human hybrid.
Yeah, look up pictures. Google Leto the Second from Dune, and
Oh
you'll
my
see him as
God.
like the worm man. It's horrifying.
I am so into this. I want to read this now.
Right,
My dad
yeah.
never told me about that.
I've accidentally sold the Dune series. I didn't
You
mean
said
to.
that, and I thought of The Troop by Nick Cutter, that stuff. And I was like,
Did you finish it?
I did. I was very disturbed.
I thought of the movie Slither when you said that.
Oh god, I love that movie. That movie is such
Great
trash.
movie. It's fantastic. It's so bad. It's Nathan Fillion, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
good.
gosh. Wait, I should pull it up on my computer and share screen.
Screen share the worm man.
Yes.
What? That is not what I thought it would look like. He would look like.
So,
As we're waiting for the worm.
So
we're
what,
waiting
are
for
we
the
going
worm.
to talk about the Arabic? Are we going to talk about colonialism, or what are
That's
we
what I
going
wanna
to
get
touch
to.
on?
hold
We
on.
probably should.
My puppy needs me 1 second.
In the meantime, we can look at words.
Oh, click on the first one. Yeah, that's
What is this?
horrifying.
What?
Wow. Very attractive.
Sexy.
Beautiful.
Is that what Paul wanted for his son? He's like, I've always wanted a son that was half worm.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, in the Dune TV series, Leto the Second is James McAvoy.
Oh yes.
so
Oh
good.
yes. So James McAvoy is the worm man. Oh yes.
He's the worm boy.
Okay, I gotta watch that now.
Did we lose Steph?
I think she said she had to do some. Oh, there she is.
She was so angry her computer broke.
Yeah.
Oh, Tremors. I love
Oh
Tremors.
yeah, Tremors is such a great film.
So great. So
Tremors
fun.
is like one of my favorite movies. Tremors 2, I actually like Tremors 2 better. I love it. The little bitty worms. When I was a kid, I always wanted like one of those little mini ones as like a pet, even though it would like kill you. But I'm like, it's so cute. I must have seen those movies probably at least 30 times in my
Oh
life.
yes, that is a comfort
Yeah.
watch at this point. Okay, so I watched so many reviews of Dune this week, trying to ascertain whether I was assessing this wrong, but I still disagree with every review that I watched because to me, I feel like you can't claim that a story is not about race when we have clear evidence that it is about class, but there is a division between power, with the higher power being described as red hair, fitting a certain description of whiteness, and then we have a lower class which is of a darker skin tone, which has lesser technology, which is on a different planet that has different resources. Like, I feel like the two are one and the same. So if there's anyone who says no, Dune is not about race, it's not about race, it is about class, I say it is both of those things. That is my first.
I think it's like, even if it's not directly intentionally race, it's so analogous to race that it may as well be.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Especially that we have main character who is using Arabic terminology that specifically references Islam. However, and also at the same time, we have this reference to the Orange Catholic Bible that is not exactly fully explained either. But those are very specific religions that we associate with very specific groups of people that are on very different continents that can also relate to the worlds in Dune based on their geographical descriptors. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that Dune is about white saviorism at the end of the day, because you have Paul, who is coming from this more affluent society of Kaladin, thinking that he's coming in to do something, even if it's not what he wanted to do. He's still coming in with the idea of, I'm the chosen one, I have powers, I have things that these people need, and so I'm going to fulfill a need that they cannot fulfill themselves. But I don't think it was ever made very clear as to why anyone else could have done the same thing.
Can I counterpoint that?
Go ahead, please.
So, open question, can you still call it a white saviorism plot because Paul's goal was never, ever in any way to help the Fremen? His goal was always to get his house back, to get control of the spice, to kick out the Harkonnens. Like, he never, ever, like, the Fremen did not even enter into the equation except as a tool to get what he wanted.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
I think it could. That's just my opinion, because I think that a lot of, for example, when we had the missionaries or the pilgrims that were coming over to these other lands, and yes, there was this guise of, we are bringing our religion and our culture onto these people to uplift them, but at the bottom line that we're not talking about is that it was all very selfishly motivated, because there were certain resources that they wanted from them in order to fulfill their own wants and needs. So I think that there's two layers there of that.
So
and
who in the book is more guilty of the white saviorism, Paul or the Bene Gesserit?
he is a Bene Gesserit, so wouldn't it be?
No,
Jessica,
I mean
yes.
the Atreides house or the Bene Gesserit mission. Which
Probably
one is?
Jessica, I think, on her own, because she was the one that willingly chose to create Paul as he is, to try to force this prophecy. I don't know, and then she ends up becoming like a ruler in the Fremen society as well. But I can't remember whether her goals divert from Paul's at that point, or whether she abandons that when Paul eventually wins. I can't remember. Do you remember? Like,
I'm
does
not
she stay
sure.
with the Fremen in book 2?
I think she does stay with the Fremen, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I that's not a complete answer. It's just something I was thinking about.
But like in the beginning, the Bene Gesserit were the first people to come to Dune, and they were the first people to be like, "Here's religion," to the Fremen, and they were the ones that set up the original prophecy. So it definitely is white saviorism, but I'm trying to pinpoint exactly who is the one driving it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
So is Paul more of a colonialist as using the Fremen for his own ends than actually trying to
I think so.
save
Yeah.
them? Yeah.
Right.
Is that worse?
I feel like it's equally bad. Yeah.
No, I definitely, when I was reading it, I didn't, because I knew I'd read some of the comments like as I was like reading it with like the white saviorism, and I couldn't feel that from Paul and his. I keep wanting to call him Timothy Chalamet, but I couldn't like feel that from him. But I definitely could feel the colonialism aspect of using the Fremen to help. So yeah, again, I didn't feel white saviorism from him specifically, but I did feel another bad thing from him. So
yeah, the Bene Gesserit was just everywhere.
There should have been some kind of commentary about Paul using a bad situation for other people to further his own goals, and like that could have been a commentary of anybody that is riding the wave of their culture having stamped out another one. Even if they're not guilty on their own, they are still complicit because they're not attempting to like change things.
Which I think might have been Frank Herbert's goal, and why a lot of people in their reviews say once you've read the entire series that it's acceptable, because that was his point, was to make these kinds of social commentaries about it. But I disagree with the idea of that, or let me backtrack. I feel like because we got so much insight as to what Jessica was thinking, Chani was thinking, all these people that were trying to convince us, in my opinion, that Paul is a good person, or that he is fitting this narrative, or that he's so smart, or he's so great. Like I felt like they were trying to force me to agree with them, to like Paul, and I was like, I can't stand Paul. So I just don't know. I feel like there were missed opportunities to at least give us nuggets that we're not having this conversation right now, but in book 2 or 3, we will get to that conversation.
So it wouldn't have taken a lot either.
I don't think it would have. No.
Yeah, like when you read the book, nothing really compels you to keep going with it, other than if you like absolutely fall in love with the world and the writing. It's not like there's like things being like, oh, this is going to be resolved later, keep reading. Like there's no like, and Paul doesn't really have like a character development arc. I would say he kind of is the same person from when he's 15 to the end of the book. He doesn't really. I wouldn't say he changes that much. He might change some of his opinions, but he really much is a very static person. That's why I don't really like Paul that much. He's kind of boring.
Yeah, there's this weird bit in the middle where it's like, and now Paul becomes an emotionless man. It's like he was an emotionless man before. Like that's not changed. This isn't a new
my
thing.
dad doesn't talk to me enough, and that's like the extent of his emotions.
He did not
I'm
care about
nervous being in the room with my dad. It's like okay, it's like every dad from like the 70s. Like,
I have a question for you guys, because I thought about this a lot, and I'm not sure if I'm misunderstanding it, but to me, it didn't seem logical as to how he can predict the future, because from what I understood about the Bene Gesserit is that they were getting the knowledge of all the previous Bene Gesserit, right, in their training. And then the Mentat were supercomputers, but they were calculating based on information that they already had access to. So how was he able to understand things about these world and people in this world that he never had informational access to?
Because of correct me if I'm wrong, Max, but I think it's because of the fact that he was a male Bene Gesserit. It had something to do with the taking and the giving aspects. So the women was a giving kind of, and the men were like a taking kind of memory.
There was that one like sentence. I know exactly the bit you mean. There was that one sentence that was like such horse shit, and it was like women are natural givers and men are natural takers, and this is why they use magic differently or something. But like I think if they had spun it in a way that like Paul was combining all the information from the past of a Bene Gesserit with the training he had received as a Mentat, that would have worked as to why he was somebody that could almost 100% perfectly predict the future. I don't feel like they needed the Kwisatz Haderach bit in there as like a man. What it should have been is like somebody who is Bene Gesserit who was willing to give the child the extra attention and train them in learning the way that a mentat had been trained. And then it would have removed the whole sexism thing because the kid could have been any gender and the fact that it was a male would have been incidental.
Yeah, because as soon as you have a person in the universe that happens to be trans, it negates the entire theory. Like
It all falls apart.
It's so stupid. And the fact, I will have to say that the fact that they can change like a zygote's sex in the womb before it's even implanted in the ovarian wall is absolutely ridiculous to me. I'm like, this is so dumb. Like it's like when the cells are dividing before it even becomes a zygote, before it's like a blastocyst, that's when sex is determined with the XY chromosomes. It's like, there's no way they could control that. There's no way at all. They would have to know exactly when, like, you know, sperm met egg. And I'm like, come on, who has time for that?
If she had done that after she got the ability to like transmute the molecules in her body, that would have been an appropriate time in the story for that to happen because it's totally possible.
Yeah.
But, like, she doesn't get that power until like 7/8 through the book.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I'm like, there's no way. It's not scientifically possible. Like I like sci-fi concepts when they are vague and you can kind of like figure it out on your own, but like when they're so specific like that, I'm like, they better be correct or I'm gonna make fun of it.
See, now I wonder, and I'm not a biologist, so I wouldn't know the history of this. Would this have been information that was available to Frank Herbert in the 1960s?
That's what I was trying to think, and my guess is no, because I think was this around the time that they were discovering DNA shape? I feel like it was just very early science that I don't think. Knowing now, like obviously we would know what to do, but I think back then it wasn't available information. So
even the concept, like I made fun of it about birth control earlier, but even then, back then, you know, that was a new concept. Really, like he'd have no idea that we'd have the technology we even have now to do that. So. I mean, I guess you could say he tried to be like accurate as accurate as he could be. Maybe it'd be interesting to like if he's dead, right? Because it'd be cool to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Let's see. Well, it says DNA shape was discovered in 1953, so he would have had access to that.
Yeah, if it was public knowledge and if they had enough. If it was like posted where he could find
it.
True.
That's true.
This is something though. And I know, Tina, you will have seen this in reading so much retro sci-fi. There is this running theme, especially in the 60s and 70s, of people taking a very, like, just discovered idea that's just been published in journals and, like, running with it into a story.
Yeah.
Like, you get people talking about, like, a new rocket fuel or, like, solar sails or, like, radiation. And they'll be like, oh, a science thing. How would this affect a real-world situation? What would be the implications of this? And I feel like maybe it's to do with that. Maybe he found all this bits of information and he was like, oh, let's put this into my world build.
It's like, fascinating to see that kind of thing. I have
it's interesting. Yeah, Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke do it a lot.
Oh, yeah. This one, like, it's from 1953. And they had just mapped just found like Venus on telescopes, like they could actually zoom in. And so this guy in the book, he gets into an alien spaceship and he lands on Venus and he's like, it's like a jungle here. There's all these animals and he can breathe the air there because back then they had no idea. They were like, yeah, maybe, you know, because it looks like it's foggy. It's probably mist. Like it's like no. So you'll die if you go on there, but it's really funny. I laughed quite a bit when he's like, "Oh man, there's like jungle vines on Venus." I'm like,
that's something I wanted to know about the oxygen on Arrakis. I wanted more explanation of the underground, like world. So we got hints of things that there will be answers, but again, it wasn't enough. And I feel like the entire last scene where Paul and the Freeman attack Baron or whatever, they have the big battle. It happened really fast for me. Like there was all this build up for it, and it just happened really fast.
Just like it's done, the battle's finished. Like there's restoring the castle. Okay.
It's like sandstorm hits. Okay, we're in. End of battle.
This again is like the car manual people. Like you got to wrap it up, Frank. Like,
to like cut out this whole battle. No one needs.
There can be only so many steps.
Yeah. wasn't feeling it. And they gave a lot away in the epigraphs too. I don't think we needed those epigraphs.
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I was wondering the whole book, like, who the princess was. I was like, who is this girl? Why does she like Paul so much?
And I would like to know how, maybe this is asking for too much, because they kept referring to the human body as being, what was it, like 70% water or something, which we now know is not actually like accurate. It's not all the fluid is water. So like, what did they do with the waste, or what was the filtering process like? Maybe there was some sort of...
I'm so curious about that.
You watch Waterworld, and he has a very complicated system for filtering his tea to drink. It would not make him inside a suit.
Yeah.
It's like a fridge-sized machine.
Like if they had a little backpack on, that would make sense, you know? They got a little machine in there. I don't know. No idea.
Yeah,
Maybe the movie will explain it.
It's so interesting.
I'm also curious how they filtered the water, like, after somebody passed away. Because they, like, use all that water after them. Like,
Right. That seems like such a complex process. I would want to know more about that. But you just reminded me, since we're talking about body parts, there was this one scene that I thought was hilarious. I was cackling. Like, do you know the scene where Yue drugs Leto and he's kind of fading out and he's about to put the tooth in his mouth? And I kind of imagine it like, you know, when you get the vignette because you're starting to black out, but Yue is in Leto's vision because he keeps saying, don't forget the tooth, don't forget the tooth, don't forget the tooth. I was crying.
You know, in the old movie, it is exactly like that. Like you have his face going like this around the screen.
The old movie is terrible in certain ways, but honestly, it is quite.
It's so good. It's such a good film.
It's a riot. And Sting, he just walks around all oiled up all the time, just flexing.
oh my god.
It's so funny. Yeah. I always tease my dad, like, Dad, you're watching this because of Sting. And he's like, no. I'm like, yeah, right.
Oh, it's so funny. And then who was the character? Radan? Am I saying his name correctly?
Oh,
Raban?
Raban.
Yeah. The moment he came on page and they described him, I was like, that's Batista.
Yeah, but I don't want Batista to play a bad guy. He's such a cute. You know, there's one thing about the new movie that I'm really stressed about.
What?
The fact that every single casting has been announced except Fade.
Yeah, I was curious.
Oh, is that true?
I was wondering.
Yeah.
I was like, who is? I was like, I wouldn't. They're not going to bring him into a book 2, maybe.
I think it should still be Sting.
Oh my god, I would literally die. There's a really funny. So there's this documentary about LSD on Netflix, and they interview Sting, and he tells this hilarious story about him being on LSD, entering his property, and like helping someone birth a cow. It's very funny. Like, I highly recommend just watching that part of it.
Oh my god!
Just saying, that's Sting story.
What else? Oh god. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't read the appendix. I'll be really honest. I couldn't bring myself to do it. It's like, I can't do this. Did anyone else read it?
No.
No, I've read it before.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need any of this. I know. I know all the main words. Except I don't remember what CHOAM stands for, but I don't think anyone's ever would. So far.
Yeah. Yeah. What else do we want to talk about?
CHOAM, like, for some reason, whenever you say CHOAM, I think of, like, the chum bucket from SpongeBob.
Amazing. Is anyone going to go see the new movie in theaters? I'm definitely going to go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, my boyfriend and I are having a Timothée Chalamet weekend because we also love Wes Anderson movies, and The French Dispatch is coming out the same weekend, and he's in that one too. So I'm like, we're just gonna have a full weekend of Timothée Chalamet, which I'm fine with. So
I think my weekend of movies is going to be Dune, and then it's going to be the Paw Patrol movie because I'm taking my daughter.
I want to see that so bad.
Yeah, it's your
Oh my
birthday.
god, I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I got my Amazon package and there was an ad for Paw Patrol on it, and I was like, okay, I'll roll with this.
yeah, Paw Patrol's so cute.
Max
Yeah.
seems like he disagrees.
Paw Patrol does not have a good rep in the UK. It's not
Oh,
not
does
a
it?
UK popular show.
That's funny.
Oh no! Oh, that's so funny. Is
That's
it?
so-
Yeah, it's not the same as Peppa over here, which is every kid's like obsessed with it over here. Like my
Oh,
daughter
everyone
says
loves
brilliant
Peppa.
all the time, and I'm like, you're not from.
Yeah, I was like babysitting for a family like last year just because of COVID and everything, and she like the little 3-year-old would watch Peppa Pig all the time, and she's like, I can't wait till we can go on holiday.
My daughter calls shopping carts trolleys. She's like, I want to ride in the trolley. I'm like, it's not called it over here.
Oh, so cute. Listen, the fact that Peppa Pig has more feminism than Dune.
Oh my god, there are some good episodes.
Some moments in Peppa
Peppa
Pig.
Pig is good.
I have perfect faith in any film that China has decided to ban.
Yes, Venom 2! I
I
can't wait
want
for
to see
Venom 2.
that. I love Venom. Oh god.
I got a vintage Venom shirt up here. I'm waiting
Hell
to wear it. I can't wait
yeah.
for Venom 2.
Yes. So yeah. Like I still want to see the movie, even though I'm rating the book 1 star, because this world has so much potential to be
It
so
does.
cool.
It does.
And it makes me so sad.
And because they don't really physically describe anything, there is so much room for aesthetic interpretation.
Mhm.
I can't wait to see the sandworm stuff because the
Yes.
80s
Yes.
movies did a pretty good job, but I can't wait to see them like really good CGI.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which
And I
I
hope
think
they give Channy more to do. You know, I hope they cut out the whole Leto 2 thing. Unless he comes
Yeah.
into the Worm Man, that's perfectly fine with me.
which I think also might be a reason why I'm not rating it so high, because I'm an atmospheric reader. I like descriptiveness. Give me all the description. And there wasn't a lot of that. So.
Information.
Give me information. I don't want to hear what you're thinking. Describe what's on the dinner table.
Make me hungry.
I'm hungry. That dinner scene was
Tell
so
me how
awesome,
your
by the
poo
way.
suits work.
Exactly.
I need this.
That dinner scene was so awkward, by the way. So awkward.
There were a lot of awkward scenes
It was awkward.
in the book.
Did you guys like Leto? Did anyone like Leto? I didn't like Leto.
Nah, I didn't.
Again, I think I liked him more than I thought I would because it's Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
And I need to stop doing that because I usually don't like think about all characters from like movies and things like that when I'm reading books, but this one I just had to. One, because I love everyone in the movie. So
There's a lot of handsome people in this film, Jessa. A lot of handsome people.
Like I feel like Leto might be glorified a little bit just because he has that one scene where he saves everyone from the ship that's getting eaten by the worm. But I don't see that as him being a good person. I just see that as a leader that's protecting his assets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like he was kind of using, like, it's good, but he was also kind of using it as a way to gain popularity in the new planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it was a tactical choice more than an actual like desire to help people.
100%.
Right.
100%.
But then we got Kynes over here being like, oh, they know how to put on our shoes. He's the one. And I'm just like, no. That and the whole riding worms thing where they taught him how to ride a worm. And then when he successfully rides a worm, they're like, he's the chosen one. Like, you could have taught me how to ride a worm. I could be the chosen one.
Channy can ride the worms, and she's like,
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
It's because he summoned the biggest worm I've ever seen.
Oh man, slow down. Oh god.
I have to head off because I need to help my partner with my kids.
That's okay.
But I'm sorry. Thank you for having me, and I'm sorry that I was late. I'm gonna say I'm over about technical.
No worry. Thanks for coming.
It was so
Yes.
nice talking to you.
Yeah, I was so excited to talk to you guys about this. So thank you.
It was so much fun.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye, Tina.
Hey, bye.
bye.
Yay. We're actually going longer than we usually go. We have a lot to say.
Yeah.
today. I mean, I still
Many,
have more
many
to say, but
thoughts.
it's up to you guys if you want to keep going.
My laptop may or may not crash again.
Okay.
Because everyone's like frozen now, but I can hear you.
So like on the another thing that I didn't, it just felt very tropey in the okay. Chani was specifically described as being a lighter olive tone, and that whole, I think that's another issue that still comes around, that is still present in our society, of like the main girl, even if she's a woman of color, is still a lighter skinned woman of color. And I think that was very intentional. And me, I don't know, I have problems with anyone's like saying it's not about race and it's not about color. I still feel that it is, because that's very intentional, and that's something that I noticed. So I was like, it's uncomfortable.
And even with present day, with today, like I know there were some issues with the casting because Chani Zendaya, who is a queen, this has nothing to do with her, but people were saying, oh no. People were saying that like she's not Arabic, which is what it seems like that the Freeman people were supposed to be. So should we have casted an actual Arabic actress who still, if you wanted to throw it in there, been light skinned? Or should we just go with Zendaya because she's got the name for it and she is a light skinned woman of color? So I know that there was some issue with her casting just because she was not an Arabic woman of color.
So then it goes back to the main argument, I think, between the two opposing sides of the Dune community, which is this a story about Arabic people, or is this just a society in the future which is so far flung and removed from us that just happens to have derivatives of Arabic language? Like what?
The Arabic language, I would tend to think is not. I would say yes, it's partially totally a critique of like Arabic people, but like the Arabic language isn't just used by the Fremen; it's in like all aspects of the society, because even the emperor is using Arabic language.
Well, the Bene Gesserit, I think, at one point explained that they have connections to like the origins of the Freeman, or something to Arrakis, to Arrakis or whatever.
If you look at the casting of the Fremen for the new movie, it seems like they have got such a mix of races for every single aspect of the film. It feels like they're trying to remove that and make it not a racial thing, and make it more of an exploitation of natives class, like disparity commentary. But I don't know. Will that mean that something is lost though?
I don't know. And I think that's where the difference is, and that's all the reviews that I was reading was saying like, no, this is not about that. And so it would make sense that they would change that for the movie. But I have a hard time separating the two. I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially because
totally
like the main people like Timothy Chalamet and Oscar Isaac and Lady Jessica, who I have the cast list, is by Rebecca Ferguson. Like, they're all white people. So, like, if it really wasn't about race or anything like that, why couldn't we have any other actress or actor play that part?
Is Oscar Isaac? I thought he was Hispanic.
Oh, maybe.
I thought he was from Guatemala.
Oh, yeah, Guatemalan born. Yeah. My bad.
Yeah, he is.
In South American.
Latino. Yeah, he is. But I get what you're saying, though.
I know what you're saying. I'm just
yeah. And in the book, they're described as having, some of them, as again the Harkonnen, have red hair and fair skin, and Paul has like blue eyes, and so on and so forth. And just like, if it wasn't, we would have more. It would be more in the book descriptive of mixes of races, and that would again insinuate that we're so far in the future that all people have mixed, and so there's just an amalgamation of like skin tones, hair colors, and everything. But since there's a clear division, how can
Becky Chambers knows how it would be?
Yes, Becky Chambers. I want to hear her do a Dune movie. But yeah, I don't know.
The whole way through this, with like having any opinions about the book, I have this thing where I'm like, have I put it on such a pedestal in my mind that I am subconsciously trying to defend it? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And like, I have to keep stepping back, and I'm like, does this deserve any kind of defense at all?
I don't know. Or a side question to that is, should any piece of literature that is a foundational work in a genre be
Mm.
worth defending because of its time in history?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, important question.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the answer is no.
But I don't know. I don't know. I kind of just want to listen to like a Spark Notes version of the rest of the books just to know what happens.
Yeah, just read like the
Yeah.
Wikipedia synopses.
Tell me what happens.
I would never think there would be a hybrid worm human.
They also like flood Dune and make it like super swampy and lush and green.
What?
Yeah.
Do
I
they
was
like
so
crash
curious.
Paladin into it or something?
What did you
I
say,
don't
Scott?
know.
Oh, I was just like, how'd they do that? Did they crash Kaladin into it or something? Like, yo.
The end. Bush.
I was curious how they drown the worms. I was like, where did they get enough water to drown a worm?
Well, they had the underground lakes.
That's true. So just there? Because then you have to get the worm to the lake.
How big is Arrakis? I don't know.
True.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else I want to talk about. I feel like my anger has deflated. I don't know if you guys can tell. It's
This is like the stage of the argument where you're like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed.
Disappointed.
Yeah. I can't look the little faces I was drawing of like
Oh
I love it.
disappointed face. So disappointed. I really don't need this play-by-play of internal monologue. Yeah, and it's pointing to the sentence where Kynes goes, "A cool one, this Duke." Just like,
Man, this Duke is sick.
he's great. I can't. I was also trying to decipher why blue for the eyes. Because I was thinking about it like, okay, maybe Frank Herbert was thinking about when you eat a lot of carrots, your skin turns orange.
I thought you were gonna be like, we eat a lot of carrots. Your eyes go blue. Everybody knows that. Duh.
What? But why blue? I don't know.
Maybe because it's like the absolute most opposite color to sand.
It's like water. It's what they want.
That wouldn't make sense, though. That wouldn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. I can't wrap my brain around it. Oh, I would
It's
have
magic.
Yeah, it's magic.
Magic.
I would have understood if they turned orange or brown or maybe black.
because that would look too much like some kind of sepsis. Like ew, like imagine if your whole eye went brown. Ugh. Disgusting.
I don't know. Or red.
That's what happens when you wear one of those nasty poo suits.
Oh god. Oh, it's gross. Can you imagine walking around with poo just in your thigh?
Can you imagine how much old Fremen smell?
Oh my god.
Oh,
my
yeah,
God.
when they walked into the camp
Yes!
and he was describing the
mentioned that.
smells.
He did mention that. He was like, "Oh, it stinks," and he got used to it, but I don't know.
This is back to the question of like, are the worms some kind of obscure phallic symbolism though?
Listen. Oh god.
Oh
Oh no. And then what do they are this what is the leather of the suits made out of? Is it made out of worm hide?
I reckon it's made out of dead Fremen. I reckon it's no, but like
You might be
honestly,
right though.
where are they going to get leather? If they suck all the moisture out of a corpse, they immediately tan it. Like they're not going to let things go to waste, are they?
Mm-hmm. See, that would have been cool if we got
true.
a kind of descriptor of what do they do with the solid waste after the funerary process. Like the bones are used to construct things, and the like the skin is leather used to whatever. That would have been so interesting.
Yeah.
So cool, but no.
Yeah.
And it's Michael, don't even worry about
Yeah.
it.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Listen.
This is a safe space.
Yeah.
According to Frank Herbert, P stands for penis and power. So we're good. Fine. I can't.
Lots to digest in this book.
Yeah. Is there anything else? I don't know. What is it? I don't know. When did he get this one? Mr. Password. Oh, I think I wrote this really long note here. It was about, I think it was about Jessica when she finally realizes that Paul is I can never say it. What?
The hot blue Cadillac.
Yes. when she realizes that he is the whatever prophet thing, I was just like, what? Because she planned this from the beginning, and she knew that he was getting the Mentat training, and she was giving him the benefits. Her and her husband knew from when he was little that he was going to be a combination of both of these things. So then why was it at this particular moment that she goes, oh, my son is the chosen one? Like, chick, you had this plan for 15 years. What are you talking about?
I thought Jessica was supposed to be smart.
That's right. I thought she was supposed to be smart. I don't understand.
Oh my
gosh. And then Paul being so witty when he seems like he's such a sheltered child.
I feel like that could have been like there's so much stuff in here that could have been explained away so easily. Like if it had built more on the relationship between Gurney, who is witty, and Paul, then you could have had some aspect of like explaining the fact that Paul was not raised by his parents, he was raised by his tutors.
Right. Yes, and Unkindness of Ghosts, which we're really excited about.
Yes, and Unkindness of Ghosts.
Yay! So, anything else?
I'm good.
Oh my god! Okay, I'm opening to my random notes, and I put the misogynistic subtext is real, and it's pointing to a line where Halleck's words came back to Paul. Mood is a thing for cattle or for making love. You fight when the necessity arises, no matter your mood. And they were talking about the differences between men and women and how Paul shouldn't think about his emotions because he's a fighter and he's like the man of the house. I'm just like, oh God, stop. Help me. No.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart's Gurney in the original. Pretty cool.
And then, okay, and then there was this scene where, what's his name? Is it Fayed or Peter? Who was this? Who killed someone with the Cry's knife? I don't remember who this is. Who was the assassin for the Baron? Was it Peter?
For the Baron, wasn't it Olia?
Not
the
no,
one
the
that was
other-
working. It was
Oh,
Yue.
it was the Yue.
was it Yue?
Mhm.
No, who kills Yue?
Oh, Paita.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So when he kills him, they have the whole scene where he like grabs the knife and like stabs him in the neck, right? Whatever. And then the Baron looks at him and goes, "Ah, so that's how he kills." But like he was gloating about Peter being like this like secret like assassin the whole time. And I was like, "Wait a second, you gave this guy all this power and put him as your right-hand man with a murderous task, and you didn't even check to see if he could kill people before you gave him the job?" Like like a mafia boss goes through initiation, right? Gangs go through initiation, be like, okay, if you want to join our mafia, show us that how down you are. Show us that you're willing to murder for us before I give you a job to go pull off the assassination attempt, and then it totally falls through, right? But no, he's like, nah, I give you the job.
He went on recommendation alone.
He went on recommendation. It's like, no, what? I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Maybe Paita's just really good at job interviews.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'd be willing to go to his seminar.
Yeah. I'm
How to
psyched. I'm
be
psyched
a
that he's David Desmalkian though. I think that's a good choice. Really good choice.
Yes. Yeah. I think that those are all my thoughts.
That's it. Anybody else?
I think we can put all this behind us.
And
Never
get
think
ready
about it
for
again.
Next month.
I'll just go watch the movie.
Yes.
Oh yeah. When does that come out? October
22nd here, I think.
22nd.
Mhm.
Oh god. I learned how to be an assassin on the job.
Right? Just now. Yeah.
I just knew I would be good at killing people. That's why you should give me the job.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody else
We're
has
good.
any thoughts. We can end the live show. Again, reminder that next month for October, we are going to be reading An Unkindness of Ghosts by River Solomon. It should be on Steph's channel, I believe.
Yes.
And
Woo!
yeah,
And
thanks
our
so
birthday
much.
celebration.
Yes.
Woo,
Yes.
1 year. Woo!
1 year of our book club. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining. And we'll see you next month, hopefully. Bye.
Bye guys, thanks for coming.
Bye.